physician to speak to a doctor to see if you're a candidate for the UroLift system.
Why settle? Love is as real as it gets. Begin your unforgettable engagement with a GIA-graded 1-carat natural diamond set in a timeless gold ring for just $3,950. Because love isn't made in a lab. We welcome all to experience the finest natural diamonds and rarest creations at prices you must see to believe. James Free Jewelers, 9555 Main Street, Montgomery, or shop online at jamesfree.com.
I'm Carrie Champion, and this is Season 4 of Naked Sports. Up first, I explore the making of a rivalry. Caitlin Clark-Reese.
Every player needs a foil.
People are talking about women's basketball just because of one single game.
I just come here to play basketball every single day.
Clark and Reese have changed the way we consume women's sports. Listen to The Making of a Rivalry, Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese on America's #1 podcast network, iHeart. Open your free iHeart app and search The Making of a Rivalry, Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese, and start listening.
Duccio, 700 WLW, Mike Allen, and hour 2 of Saturday midday. Well, I'll tell you what, lots going on, lots going on in the presidential race. Looks like, I don't even want to say this too loud because I don't want to jinx it. There has been a trend towards Donald Trump, a very minor trend in the polling in some of these, many of these, the states that are being the states that have to be won, and of course, what I'm trying to say is the battleground states. He's moving closer on those, so we shall see what happens with that. But a lot of other stuff going on too. Here to talk about it is Janice Heisel. As you know, if you're a regular listener to this show, Janet is the national correspondent for the Epic Times for the Trump campaign. Janice, thanks again for sharing part of your Saturday with us.
My pleasure. Thanks, Mike.
Hey, listen, a lot of articles you wrote this week about the campaign. I read Trump rejects second debate. I think that was a Fox News debate. Tell us the story on that and what you're hearing on the campaign trail as to why he rejected that.
From all accounts, based on what I've been hearing and reading, it just seems like that, number one, we are really late in the cycle at this point. That's his response. And secondly, it's starting to trend, as you mentioned, in his direction, according to the polls. As we should keep in mind, though, the polls are just a snapshot of how things look right now. And anything can happen.
Right.
During any election season, but especially this one, it seems. So, right now, I don't think there would be any advantage on, at least that's what his camp is pretty much saying. There's no advantage. There's no reason. And especially because their responses, Kamala Harris said she wouldn't have done anything different than Joe Biden. She was given the opportunity on The View to say, hey, what would you have done differently than Joe Biden? She goes, I can't, not a thing comes to mind. I think were pretty much her exact words.
Unbelievable.
So for all those main reasons, that's why they just said thumbs down to that debate.
Yeah, it would have been at Fox, and I don't think anyone at Fox would have gone in the tank for Trump, but at least they would have been fair. But I guess I see the strategy when you're 3 weeks out, 23 days or whatever it is, to kind of play it safe, I guess. And, let me ask you this, and I know you kind of watch some of this stuff. Trump's paid media, I've not seen anything yet, Janice Heisel, any kind of 30-second spot or 60-second spot where Kamala Harris said, just as you just said, that she wouldn't have done anything different than Joe Biden. Don't you think if it hasn't already been there, that's going to end up in a 30-second spot?
Oh, I could be mistaken, but I think I've seen that.
Okay.
But then again, I see so much, it's like a torrent of information out there. I could be mistaken, but I do think that they hopped on that pretty quick and turned that into a campaign spot. Obviously, that if you're campaigning on behalf of President Trump, you would be wanting to tie her as much as possible to the Biden record, which, all the surveys show Americans are pretty much discontented with the direction of the country and the current state of the economy.
Let me ask you this. If you're hearing anything out on the trail there about a rift between Vice President Harris and President Biden, it sure seems like it, because he kind of stuck it to her this week when she was in the middle of trying to embarrass Ron DeSantis. It blew up in her face, and reporters asked Biden, well, what do you think about what's going on? And he absolutely praised Governor DeSantis. Are you hearing anything about that, Janice, about a rift between those two and her being angry, him being angry about getting knifed in the back from her?
Because my focus is the Trump campaign, I don't pretend to have any sources, inside scoop on the Harris campaign or Biden camp, but I will tell you that I am hearing rumblings about that. There are people who theorize. I don't know how much evidence they have to support it, but they're just kind of looking at the lay of the land and looking how Joe Biden has been repeatedly saying she was there for all the important decisions. Yeah. That maybe he wants to go down in history as the only a politician on record who came up ahead of President Trump in the polls, or not in the polls, but I mean in the actual election tally. I recognize that a lot of people think that that the election was not on the up and up, but he can state that the record shows if she loses, that he would be the only one to win against Trump.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, the rift to me is becoming obvious, and I don't know, you got to think that the Trump campaign will find some way to exploit that, which is fair game in my opinion. Hey, I wanted to ask you, were you able to go to Scranton for the rally, Trump's rally in Pennsylvania?
Yes, and I got to tell you that was one of the more interesting experiences that I had on the ground talking to voters. I was in the downtown area of Scranton the day before to try to just gather some voter sentiment, and there was a man standing at the corner of, I forget one of the cross street names, but the other one is called Biden Street. They renamed a street from Spruce Street to Biden Street, and they also changed the name of an expressway that leads to that, calling it now the Joe Biden Expressway. And around the town, I'm having people telling me that there were a number of residents who resented that. Yeah. And business people who resented it because, Biden lived there literally in the 1950s when he was a little boy. I think he left when he was around 10 years old or something. But he has repeatedly claimed Scranton, PA, a coal town as being his town. And the powers that be did vote to rename those streets. And so there's a man standing right there in the heart of that, right at the intersection of Joe Biden and whatever streets downtown, with a big sign in support of Harris. And I interviewed him for probably a good 30, 40 minutes. He was very talkative, and he was explaining the reasons why he is in favor of Harris. I even told him that a lot of the things he was telling me sounded like that they were the campaign slogans, and he said that he believes the campaign slogans are on target. He said that Trump is a threat to democracy. Oh, yeah. He said that he feels that the reproductive rights issue, as they put it, other people call it abortion dispute. He was saying that even though he doesn't have children, he feels that the future of the children is at stake. So those were his views on it. But then around the corner, I ran into, again, just randomly people around. There was a young lady sitting having a cup of coffee with, I believe it was her mother. I'm not 100% sure because that lady didn't want to talk to me, but the younger lady, she was 25, spoke to me. She was the complete opposite. And also she was saying how, she feels like that if Trump doesn't get elected, that the country is going down the tubes, and that she's afraid that people are all into the quote unquote joy that's been projected from the Harris campaign without looking at the substance about what they would actually do for the nation. And so those were her sentiments. So it was very interesting that, the two people I talked to right away, we had a 50-50 split right there in Scranton. Also, just my observation, this isn't scientific, but walking around downtown Scranton, the signage seemed to be almost 50-50. But when I talked to some people at the Trump rally, they were telling me that away from Scranton itself, there were a lot more of an 80-20 split maybe in terms of signage and what they perceived to be support, and that was in favor of Trump, they were telling me. So I guess it just depends, like anywhere else in the United States, on what community you're in, how it might play out in terms of support for Harris versus support for Trump.
That is interesting. Let me ask you this. It looks like today, if I'm not mistaken, and I know you're not out in California, but looks like he's going to hold a rally in Coachella, which before talking here, I got out the map on the internet and found out where Coachella is. There's no chance whatsoever that Donald J. Trump is going to take the state of California. I also saw, too, where, I don't know if it's this week or not, but he's going to hold a rally in Madison Square Garden, which is pretty cool. I think he thinks he's got a shot at winning New York. What do you think? I mean, what's the reason that you're hearing for him doing this?
Well, several things. I actually worked very closely with the reporter who is going to be covering that California rally. I gave him a lot of background since he's not normally covering anything related to Trump. And at first it does seem kind of like, what? Because that state has gone for Democrats really solidly ever since pretty much Reagan. And, it's viewed as being, a snowball's chance in hell that a Republican, anybody, including Trump, would have any chance in California. But if you look at it from a wider perspective, there could be logical reasons to go there. First of all, if Trump is able to shore up support among the Hispanic community there, that's been one of his major targets. That community, I looked up the demographics, it's literally 98% Hispanic.
Whoa. And
the Hispanic community seems to have been coming around way more toward Republicans / Trump this election cycle. From what I gather, it's largely because they, in the Hispanic community, tend to be very Catholic, tend to be more pro-life, tend to be against the transgender, whole agenda related to maybe procedures on children, things like that. Also, if Trump is able to shore up his popular vote, that could help to deflect, if he wins, any narrative that, well, he only won the Electoral College, we need to get rid of the Electoral College.
Right, okay.
If he actually wins the popular vote also, that would help to deflect that criticism that comes when you have an Electoral College win but a popular vote loss. The other thing is he is most likely needing to increase support for down-ballot issues, congressional races, Senate, maybe, a lot of other from the ground up positions that any president needs support from, fellow Republicans or fellow Democrats to achieve your agenda. Once you get into office, you need support. So those are some of the reasons why, he may be making, trying to make some inroads, even if he doesn't win the state, maybe this moves the needle on some of those other goals of his. In addition, in New York, I've had multiple sources telling me that Trump considers it he's taking it personally that he wants to win New York because that is where he came up. That is where that is his hometown. That is where, he changed the skyline with his developments. Love him or hate him, that is where, he's a New Yorker at heart, and he takes it personally that, New York kind of turned against him. And it's kind of interesting that that's also where the first indictments against Trump came out, where the first criminal conviction happened against him, and some of these big cases that went against him. Now we know that the huge verdict against him with that Letitia James case in the overvaluation of property case, that one is looks to be possibly on the verge of being overturned based on some of the appellate court questions. But then again, as you know, Mike, sometimes the questions don't necessarily foretell how those judges or justices are going to rule. So we'll have to see how that shakes out. But the New York, he did have a really good-sized rally in the Bronx. I don't remember offhand what the attendance was there. I worked with a reporter who was on the ground there to put together that report. But I do remember there was a large, very diverse, a lot of Hispanics, a lot of Blacks, ethnically diverse crowd there in the Bronx. And so it's just all part of trying to appeal to a wider swath of people rather than just your base. Basically is what I think is happening here. Got it.
Hey, only got a couple more minutes in this segment. Then we're coming back to talk to you about this incredible story that you have in the Epic Times about this guy, Ryan Routh. And it's fascinating. People are going to want to hear this. This is the only place you're going to get it. But before we do that, I wanted to ask you, I got a little bit jealous, Janice, yesterday when you told me that you get to go to the Al Smith dinner in New York. Tell us about that. Tell my listeners what it is. And Kamala Harris apparently turned down the invitation, which I think is stupid.
Well, I'm willing to bet that a lot of people in the audience at least are aware of the white tie dinner where for one day the theory is that you're supposed to put aside your, political differences and laugh at each other. And that is what the goal is of this dinner. And I
also to raise a lot of money too, Janice, from what I understand.
Yes, absolutely. But the idea is to set aside those differences and have some good-natured ribbing going on. And, there were some pretty spirited exchanges that were very memorable between Trump and Hillary Clinton. At one point, people can go online and look that up if they want to see what it's about. But I think that's going to be a really it'll be a nice comic relief evening for me personally. Sure. I think that just kind of a way for me to remember my mom from the standpoint she's no longer with us. And I remember watching that with her when I was a little girl. And I think it's a neat tradition in American politics, and it kind of makes you feel like you wish there was a little more of that, right?
No question about it. I've read a lot about it. Even Nixon, who hated the media, I think he sent Agnew a couple times, but he went, and I don't know how he did it. And supposedly it was actually funny. Ronald Reagan and Nancy went out and did a little skit about, her buying the china and everything. And it's, like you said, a fun night that raises money, I believe, for Catholic charities. But Her Highness made the decision not to go, and I think that's a bad decision. Hey, we got to take a break for the news, but when we get back, Janice, I really want to talk to you about your deep dive on one Ryan Routh. I think people will be interested in it. Can you hang in there for another segment?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mike.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll talk to Janice about that when we get back. Mike Allen, Saturday midday.
It's a showdown in the Sunshine State.
Touchdown, Bearcats!
UC's 3-2 Bearcats take their game to Florida to vanquish UCF's Knights.
Oh, my goodness, what a hit!
It's big-time Big 12 action.
2-5, out!
Catch the call, live from Orlando.
65-yard touchdown!
Coverage starts today at 2:30 on 700 WLW and 700 WLW's live stream on the free iHeartRadio app.
Men, if you're suffering from erectile dysfunction or PE, Proactive Men's Medical Center will get your sex life back in just one visit. Their painless, breakthrough medical treatments eliminate ED and PE. Here's a specialist in men's health.
I'm Dr. Simovitz. Have Viagra or Cialis let you down? Proactive Men's Medical Center offers the most effective treatments that eliminate ED and PE, with men lasting longer than ever. 98% of patients see instant results on their first visit.
Proactive Men's Medical Center's breakthrough treatments will restore your sex life regardless of age or medical history. Your consultation and first treatment are free. Plus, you'll see instant results in the office. Plus, qualified patients will have their testosterone checked free. Call 513-866-4886. 513-866-4886. To regain your sex life in just one visit, call now. 513-866-4886.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-9924. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS.
Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start.
Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems.
We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau.
You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-575-9924. That's 800-575-9924. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
In the criminal justice system, prosecutors bring the charges, and judges make sure justice is done. Prosecutors have to be tough, and judges have to be fair. And in the Ohio criminal justice system, Megan Shanahan has been both a prosecutor and a judge. Sending hundreds of dangerous criminals to prison, no prosecutor was tougher than Megan Shanahan.
A child rapist was sent to prison today. Before she won the case, prosecutor Megan Shanahan told the jury that they should keep it.
And then, Megan Shanahan became a judge. With more than a dozen years on the bench, Judge Shanahan has presided over some of the most difficult criminal and civil cases in Ohio. You want law and order on the Ohio Supreme Court? Then you want Judge Megan Shanahan, a defender of the Constitution. Shanahan, Judge Megan Shanahan for Ohio Supreme Court.
Paid for by Shanahan for Ohio.
During Cybersecurity Awareness Month, LifeLock wants to give you helpful tips to protect your identity. Using multi-factor authentication can be a line of defense to help protect your personal information. But LifeLock offers comprehensive protection against identity theft. LifeLock not only alerts you to suspicious uses of your personal information, but also fixes issues that arise, guaranteed or your money back. Protect your identity today with a 30-day free trial at LifeLock.com. Use my name, Clay, as the promo code. Terms apply.
Oh no, stomach issues again?
Stomach issues?
Who are you?
Your pancreas. I could be the real reason for your diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose oily stools.
I thought it was my stomach.
People often do, but any of these symptoms could mean having a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and speak with your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
During Cybersecurity Awareness Month, LifeLock wants to give you helpful tips to protect your identity. Using multi-factor authentication can be a line of defense to help protect your personal information. But LifeLock offers comprehensive protection against identity theft. LifeLock not only alerts you to suspicious uses of your personal information, but also fixes issues that arise, guaranteed or your money back. Protect your identity today with a 30-day free trial at LifeLock.com. Use my name, Clay, as the promo code. Terms apply.
This is Chris Broussard. Here's what's trending from the iHeart Sports Network.
Presented by AutoZone.
Bengals slot corner Mike Hilton is listed as questionable with a knee injury ahead of their game on Sunday night against the Giants. Ohio State is making the trip to Eugene to square up against Big Ten newcomer Oregon in a battle between two highly ranked programs. And the American League Divisional Series comes to a head today as the Guardians try to return to the ALCS for the first time since 2016, while the Tigers will try to keep their miracle season going. I'm J.D. Haffron.
Starting Stronger starts at AutoZone, where they've got battery solutions in the form of free battery testing, free battery charging, and replacement batteries that fit your needs. That's what makes them America's #1 battery destination. Get in the zone. AutoZone.
News, traffic, and weather. News Radio 700 WLW, Cincinnati.
Hoping to avoid another weekend of closures with the 10:30 report, I'm Sean Gallagher, breaking now. A portion of Interstate 75 North between the Norwood Lateral and Town Street exits is closed again this weekend as work continues to fix a dip in the road. Kathleen Fuller with ODOT hopes this is the final weekend for work.
We'll be able to update everybody come Monday morning. If they need a third weekend to complete the work, that would be probably the last weekend of the month. So we will it won't be next weekend. It would probably be the weekend after, so in 2 weeks.
Traffic being diverted off 75 to the Norwood Lateral, but the Paddock Road exit is closed to avoid large backups like the one seen last weekend. Now the latest traffic and weather together, and right now taking a look at the major interstates and highways. Other than that 75 closure and the Paddock Road closure off Norwood Lateral eastbound, not seeing any new accidents.
Now the latest forecast from the Train Heating and Cooling Weather Center on News Radio 700 WLW.
We'll see a warm weekend. Temperatures this morning starting off in the 50s. We climbed to the upper 70s this afternoon under mostly sunny skies. And tonight we remain quiet as we dip down into the lower 60s. Sunday, we're looking at partly cloudy skies, maybe an isolated shower in the morning, but it really does look dry now with high temperatures in the upper 70s. Breezy conditions with westerly winds around 15 miles per hour, potentially gusting up to 30 at times. From your severe weather station, I'm 9 First Warning meteorologist Erica Calora, News Radio 700 WLW.
Sunny and currently 64 degrees. The Bengals at the Giants on Sunday Night Football. In the forecast in East Rutherford calling for a mostly cloudy sky with showers and a possible storm during the game. The low down to 54. This game day forecast brought to us by Arlene House Plumbing, Heating, Air Conditioning, and Electric. Rescue operations continue as Central Florida recovers from Hurricane Milton. Governor Ron DeSantis announced Friday that 12,000 miles of state roads have been cleared, and over 150 bridge inspectors have checked out nearly 2,000 bridges across the impacted areas. That Category 3 hurricane causing widespread flooding and uprooted trees that left many roads impassable across the region. At least 16 people have been killed as a result of Milton. Evan Nolan, a lawyer who once worked in the city law department, is the next Cincinnati City Council member. Nolan will complete the term of Reggie Harris, who resigned to take a housing job in the Biden administration. Council member Mika Owens was tasked with naming his replacement, and she announced her choice Friday morning. St. X High School has fired a staff member who's currently under investigation by police for alleged inappropriate behavior with a student. Police in Springfield Township working to determine if there was any inappropriate contact and communication between that staff member and a student. College football, UC is coming off their bye week, headed south to face UCF. Coverage on the big one starts at 2:30, a 3:30 kickoff. Kentucky hosting Vanderbilt tonight at 7:45. That can be heard on ESPN 1530. And there are a lot of big games today in college football. Number 2, Ohio State, one of them is there at third-ranked Oregon. Kickoff tonight, 7:30. Top-ranked Texas and number 18, Oklahoma, set to meet at the Cotton Bowl for their annual Red River Showdown. Number 4, Penn State is at USC. Both games kick off at 3:30. Tonight at 7:30, it's 9th-ranked Ole Miss at number 13, LSU. MLB postseason, Dodgers are into the American League Championship Series. They defeated the Padres 2-0 Friday night in Game 5 of the NLDS. They now take on the Mets starting Sunday in L.A. The Yankees are awaiting the winner of Game 5 in the American League Division Series when the Guardians host the Tigers this afternoon. First pitch in Cleveland, 1:08. Our next update is at 11 o'clock. I'm Sean Gallagher, News Radio 700 WLW.
700 WLW Cincinnati. Available everywhere with the iHeartRadio app. Now number 1 for podcasting. 700 WLW, an iHeartRadio station.
I'll be honest, I'm really worried about my kids and grandkids. I never thought we'd be facing a national abortion ban in this country.
That's Kim. She lives in Cincinnati and is a grandma to 6.
If something happened to my family, I'd want them to have all the help they need. But with a national ban, they'll have nowhere to turn.
Bernie Moreno supports a national abortion ban, and he has said he is 100% against abortion with no exceptions. And if Moreno's in the Senate, he could be the deciding vote to pass a national abortion ban.
Last year, we voted to protect abortion in Ohio. Now, Bernie Moreno wants to get rid of that completely. It's simple. I don't trust Bernie Moreno to do what's right for my family. He should never be Ohio's senator.
Your Community PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising, paid for by Your Community PAC, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. Learn more at yourcommunitypac.org.
The free iHeartRadio app has over 100 original stations for you to explore right now, like Coffee Shop Radio.
Bad habits lead to you. Yeah, they were all yellow.
Just search Coffee Shop Radio and listen now on your free iHeart app. Free never sounded so good.
Cold weather is right around the corner, and Vandahar Fireplace wants to remind you that this is the perfect time for chimney cleaning and maintenance. With over 35 years experience, Vandahar Fireplace is the premier chimney sweep in Cincinnati and offers expert masonry repair and servicing. A damaged or dirty chimney is hazardous to your home's health. Make sure your chimney is in top shape and ready to use when temps drop this winter. Visit Vandahar.com or call 513-242-1110. Our service is over the top. Vondahar.
When you look around the neighborhood, you see a great-looking yard. There's really a good chance that people are using Fertilome lawn and garden products. Several years ago, Denny McEwen created the Fertilome 3-Step Lawn Program. It's a program focused on the success of the fall applications of Fertilome's lawn food with iron, applied in September, then repeated in November. In the spring, a superior pre-emergent weed control is applied. With these 3 simple steps, you're going to have a great-looking lawn throughout the year. Fertilome products are only available at independent garden retailers. To find one near you, go to Fertilome.com.
Men over 45, do you have a frequent, urgent need to urinate or a weak flow? Do you suffer from an enlarged prostate or BPH? Know your options. If BPH medications are bothering you or you're worried about invasive surgery, ask about the UroLift system. The UroLift system is an outpatient, minimally invasive procedure. It reopens the channel with no cutting and provides rapid symptom relief with no new, sustained erectile or ejaculatory dysfunction, as shown in a clinical study. Go to urolift.com and click on Find a Physician for a doctor near you. Urolift.com. UROLIFT.com. Most common side effects are temporary and can include discomfort when urinating, urgency, inability to control the urge, pelvic pain, and some blood in the urine. Rare side effects, including bleeding and infection, may lead to a serious outcome and may require intervention. If you suffer from symptoms of an enlarged prostate or BPH, the UroLift system is a proven alternative to BPH medication or invasive surgery. Visit urolift.com and click on Find a Physician to speak to a doctor to see if you're a candidate for the UroLift system.
Autumn is in the air, and like the leaves, prices are falling at Harbor Freight's parking lot sale. Hang on now. We've got tons of products on sale, like 3-ton jacks for under $100, 5,000-watt generators, $250 off, plus dual bevel miter saws at nearly half the price of the competition. Whatever you do it for less at Harbor Freight. Valid until 10/13/24 while supplies last. So hurry in. Limitations apply.
Whether you own a local business or a global one, you're always looking for ways to position your operation to create opportunities and move on them faster. With Bank of America, you get access to experts, award-winning insights, and business solutions so powerful you'll make every move matter, locally and globally. Visit bankofamerica.com/banking for business to learn more. What would you like the power to do? Copyright 2024 Bank of America N.A.
Hey, we're back. Mike Allen, Saturday, midday. We're talking to Janice Heisel, a reporter for the Epoch Times, assigned to the Trump campaign. Let me tell you something. But for an attentive, thank goodness, attentive Secret Service agent, 58-year-old Ryan Routh probably would have assassinated Donald Trump back on September the 5th or 15th. I forget which one it was. And I really believe that. He's charged now federally with attempted assassination. We really haven't heard much about this guy at all. You know, what his beliefs, motivations, things like that were. We just haven't heard much. Well, that changed Wednesday of this week with the publishing of a very, very deep dive on this guy by the Epoch Times. What you're going to hear this morning, you're going to hear first. It's not anywhere else that I know of. Janice actually traveled to Hawaii where this guy lived and talked to a lot of people about him. The main one being Chelsea Walsh, who was I believe a nurse, but also kind of a social worker type person. Janice talked to Chelsea Walsh about this guy. The title of the piece is From Hawaii to Florida, Tracing Ryan Routh's Path to Attempted Trump Assassination. Janice, I'll tell you what, you've written a lot of good things. This is one of your best. It looks to me, close to 35, 40, 50 pages maybe. I mean, you left no stone unturned. Tell my listeners what you learned about this guy, what possibly could have motivated him, what people thought of him, all that stuff.
Well, I tell you, I've got to get a ton of credit to the people who opened up to us about this gentleman, because honestly, there's no way to tell the story without having that type of help. And biggest credit has to go, in my opinion, to Chelsea Walsh, because she knew the guy, raised the alarms about him. She, as you mentioned, was a nurse rendering humanitarian aid in Ukraine when she happens upon this guy. And for lots of reasons, he creeped her out. I mean, she saw where he kicked a homeless man who was a little too aggressive about panhandling. She watched where he was going off about apparently being upset that he had written some kind of a song or a poem that he wanted a local music studio to record for him, and I guess they kind of laughed at it because they didn't think it was a very good piece, I guess. Mm-hmm. And he threatened to either blow up or otherwise destroy this music studio there in Ukraine.
Wow.
I've got to tell you, she was really open to me, and I was so complimented when I received the following messages from her. She sent me a message after reading the story and said, "Wow, it's so good, hands down the best story." And she had spoken to a bunch of media outlets. She said, "You hit the nail on the head. Thanks for listening to me." And as a journalist, one of the things that I think really differentiates my approach to stories versus some other outlets is that I really endeavor to listen and understand. And I feel like I don't go in, I try as hard as I can not to have a preconceived agenda or anything like that. I want to understand the truth as people share it with me. And just the way she described his erratic behavior, as a nurse, she's trained to look for some signs of instability, and she really feels he may have some type of a disorder, either personality-wise or mentally, which actually raises a question I want to ask you, Mike. Mm-hmm. Do you feel that based on some of these descriptions of the man, and we'll go into his life in North Carolina, where he lived before moving to Hawaii, do you think that the defense counsel might try to raise an insanity defense?
They probably will, Janice, but as you know from your years of reporting on the courts, it's very seldom tried, and even more seldomly or almost never works. But they may give it a shot. It worked on Hinckley, the dude that shot Reagan. I mean,
yeah,
I think they'll try it, but I don't think it's going anywhere.
That was in the back of my mind, and I actually did raise that. I put into context that this is the first attempted assassin to be arrested in decades, ever since that Hinckley thing happened. I think in 1981 it was.
Yeah.
And because the other guy who literally did get shots off at the former president, he was, obviously killed at the scene of that situation in Butler, Pennsylvania, which was only like 2 months before this incident happened in Florida.
Right.
So, yeah, there's definitely a lot to unpack about this guy. And, by all accounts, he was just odd, according to people I talked to who knew him.
What did they say about him, Janice? We don't have enough time for this, and maybe we can pick it up again, but we got about, I think, 15 minutes or so. Tell us about this guy, what you learned about him, if he had any friends, where he lived, and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I'll start with Hawaii, and then I'll move over to North Carolina.
Okay.
So he did live most of his life in North Carolina, but he ended up in Hawaii based on everything we've been able to get together around 2017 or 2018. Yet, get this, he voted in person in North Carolina this past March for the Democratic primary.
Wow.
Now, Hawaii records, we have no way of knowing. They won't release it publicly. Mm-hmm. Apparently, there are laws over what they can release. But we don't know if he voted in Hawaii, when or not. So why would somebody move to Hawaii and then 6 years or 7 years or however many years that is later end up voting in the state where you used to live? It's a very odd thing that also raises concerns about the whole voting situation. So there's a lot to look at here still. But in Hawaii, I did interview a man who knew him through the construction work. Ryan Rouse, was running a tiny homes business. He had this idea that he was going to try to tackle the homeless problem in Hawaii by offering tiny homes. It was just kind of strange that the building construction guy said, look, a lot of the stuff that Rouse was representing on his website wasn't true. He was saying that you can avoid this big permitting process. Any structure that's going to house a human being requires permits, even in Hawaii. Mm-hmm. And so there is a large homeless population in Hawaii. I was actually kind of surprised at the amount of garbage, homeless people, bad road conditions, traffic problems. In the resort areas like Waikiki, it was fine, but you get outside of there where Ralph lived, which was about 25 miles north of Honolulu, and it's this very cloistered little community abutting a mountainside, and it almost felt to me like a trailer park because of how all these houses are jammed in close to each other, some of them not in the best repair, with fences in front of them that say things like, beware of dog. And the neighbors there weren't too happy to see me. I got kind of kicked out of the area when I was just there to try to ask. I'm respectful of people. I don't get in anybody's face if they don't want to talk to me. But they were none too happy. And these people moved there for a reason. It's kind of isolated. They're across Kamehameha Highway from the beach. Okay. So abutting a mountain. So these people want to be alone, and that's where he moved. And so in terms of how he behaved, they just said he was kind of unkempt, that he just was kind of odd. He had these big ideas that, like, again, he's going to tackle the homeless problem by himself, by doing these tiny houses. So that was what was shared there in Hawaii. A lot of people I spoke to, surprisingly to me, weren't even aware of the second alleged assassination attempt of the former president.
Wow.
They also, those who didn't know that the guy was living in Hawaii. And that's because the news cycle there, a lot of the major news outlets are based in New York and eastern United States. And, the time they're breaking news is in the middle of people's workday in Hawaii because of the time difference.
Sure.
So when you're in Hawaii, it's a different news cycle, and it's kind of almost a news vacuum.
Yeah.
So that brings me to North Carolina.
Well, Janice, can I interject here?
Yeah.
It's a time issue, and we got to do this when we have more time. Can you? This guy was on law enforcement's radar from what you wrote, and tell us about that. How he did come to the attention of people in law enforcement.
Well, I know that Chelsea Walsh shared with me that she and others raised alarms about his behavior in Ukraine. He did, during that time, make threats about both Biden and Trump, as well as even Putin. He had, expressed that he wanted bad things to happen to all of these world leaders, just kind of viewed as an unstable guy. He felt like they dropped the ball. The people she reported it to, she had an hour meeting. Upon her return to the United States, she cut her stay short in Ukraine because she was so concerned about his behavior.
And who was that meeting with, Janice? Homeland Security? I thought I read that.
Yes.
Okay.
Department of Homeland Security. And then after the assassination attempt, she contacted, she wouldn't say which agency, I guess they asked her not to, a federal agency that she said during her 22-minute conversation, an employee on the other end of the phone yawned when she raised the issues of her concern. And, hey, I know this guy that they just arrested. Here were the concerns I had about him. She did say that somebody from that agency did later contact her, but it was concerning to her that the person on the other end of the phone didn't seem to be too interested in her concern. Wow. One of the biggest questions I have is how does this guy go from someone in North Carolina who, on the surface, he looked like he was an upstanding citizen. He actually won a crime-fighting award from the local police department. But behind the scenes, he starts doing things like being accused and convicted of bad checks. He's repeatedly in trouble dozens of times for, relatively minor things, but still then he finally ends up having a standoff with police with, being holed up in his place of business with a, quote, weapon of mass destruction, which I guess was a rifle, quote, unquote, fully automatic rifle, according to the local paper at the time. So how do you go from being an Eagle Scout, upstanding business person, crime-fighting award, Citizen of the Year to that? And there are concerns raised by a police officer who told me that, he thinks the guy, started to get involved with drug use, and it was affecting his behavior. So that was the opinion of this former, retired police officer that had over 100 contacts with this guy.
Wow. And Ms. Walsh, correct me if I'm wrong, had 2 contacts with law enforcement. One, I think you just said that took an hour, and I guess the other one was on the phone where the dude on the other end was yawning. So, I mean, law enforcement knew about that. And in fairness to law enforcement, they don't have a crystal ball. They just don't. But having said that, this was a guy that probably should have been looked at.
Well, that is the opinion of Ms. Walsh, and I also tried to contact some other people who said they made reports about him. One is a former CIA person. This person didn't get back to me, though, but online on Twitter, X now, this person did say they had issued, hey, warning about this man. So we'll just have to see how this plays out. But I got to tell you, it seems like there were quite a few concerns raised about him. It's kind of a lot of the people are wondering about where did he get his money.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that.
Loan.
Did you find anything out about that?
No, and that's the sort of thing that's really, really hard to pin down unless somebody has some inside connections. And so I want to encourage anybody who happens to have solid inside information, please contact me. The information is at Janice Heisel, and it's JANICEHISLE on Twitter. And also, has my email address there on Twitter. So please get a hold of me if anybody has any information that really would help me pin down further details about this man rather than just speculation. I'm all ears, hoping to pin that down, because it's just that's not an easy thing to do. I can't subpoena people's bank records or whatever, but it is a huge question. People also wonder, how did he know to be at the Trump golf course when he was there?
Right.
He was there for 12 hours before Trump shows up. Now, was he just maybe betting that Trump might show up that day because Trump does have a pattern somewhat of golfing on Sundays? Or did he get tipped off that Trump was going to be there? We don't know.
Wow. I'll tell you what, it's an amazing story, Janice, and you did a very, very deep dive on it. Something tells me you're going to get some responses to your requests, and to the best of my knowledge, no one else has done it. Not enough time to go over all this, but thank you for at least giving us an idea about it. If you want to read it, Epoch Times, and let me do a little commercial for them. If you want to read things and that go into detail about stories and not just kind of a drive-by, the Epoch Times is something that you want to make sure that you read. Janice, I appreciate it, and hope we can call on you again.
Thank you very much, Mike. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you. Wow. And this is a good story. I mean, it really is. Takes a little while to read it, but that's as it should be when you're doing reporting, real journalism, and you answer questions that people have. And talking about this guy, Ryan Routh, I truly believe, and I think it's pretty self-evident, that but for that Secret Service agent who Janice said he was there for 12 hours, the Secret Service agent who saw that rifle barrel sticking out, we would not have had Donald J. Trump, because from where he was, the shot was not that difficult. But you look at the Kennedy assassination with Oswald, so many things came out about Oswald, kind of some parallels to Oswald and this guy. You know, the nuttiness, the identifying schizophrenically with causes. So it's going to be interesting to see where this goes. Hey, we got to take a break, but when we get back, we're getting back to politics as usual. We've talked a lot about the presidential race on this show. Haven't paid much attention to local races. That changes when we get back. We're going to talk to Hamilton County GOP Chair Russ Mock about the local races. And we'll do that when we get back. Mike Allen, Saturday Midday.
In his campaign ads, Sherrod Brown thinks everything's pretty funny. But it's not when you look at his voting record. Brown voted to allow transgender biological males to compete in girls' sports. Unfair and dangerous. Brown introduced a bill letting transgender biological men into girls' locker rooms and girls' bathrooms. That's just not right. Anne Brown supported allowing puberty blockers and sex change surgery for children. Migrants are flooding into Ohio, but Brown voted for government handouts to illegal immigrants and voted 10 times to protect sanctuary cities that release dangerous illegal immigrant criminals onto Ohio's streets. Sorry, Sherrod, your seriously bad votes are no joke. And Ohio doesn't think it's funny. Sherrod Brown has let us down. He's way too liberal for Ohio. Senate Leadership Fund paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. www.senateleadershipfund.org.
Buy and service your Sprinter at Mercedes-Benz of Fort Mitchell.
Stop using the big National Out-of-Town Shredder. Use Document Destruction, the hometown shredder. Speak with a real person and get your first 6 months of service free. Call Document Destruction, 513-772-1114, 772-1114.
Progressive Commercial presents Heroes That Keep Truckers Going. Today's hero, the vending machine restocker who gave you a free energy drink. Was it out of the kindness of her heart, or was it just one less can she had to stock? Either way, thanks, hero. What else can keep truckers going? Progressive Truck Insurance with primary liability limits up to $2 million. Get a quote in as little as 7 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Coverage subject to terms and limits.
Discover a career that matters at the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. Be part of an innovative team delivering world-class healthcare and benefits to America's veterans. Enjoy robust benefits, work-life balance, and career development opportunities. Join a diverse and inclusive community that values your unique background and skills. A community where nearly 1 in 3 of your colleagues are veterans themselves. Apply now at vacareers.va.gov.
Listen to Sherrod Brown. When he wanted your vote,
on major issues, I'll stand up to the president of my own party.
But Sherrod Brown doesn't stand up to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. He votes with them 97% of the time. Brown supported Biden and Harris on radical issues like amnesty for 11 million illegal immigrants. Brown voted to give nearly $1 billion in COVID stimulus checks to convicted criminals in prison, even the Boston Marathon bomber. And Brown voted to give taxpayer-funded health care to illegals who get amnesty, and Social Security benefits too. So the next time Sherrod Brown tells you,
I'll stand up to the president of my own party,
ignore it. Because 31 years in Washington has changed Sherrod Brown. He's not for us anymore. And he's way too liberal for Ohio. American Crossroads paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. www.americancrossroads.org.
Game day is Lear's Prime Market Day. Going to the game or a party at your home? Lear's Prime Market in Milford is your game day tailgate headquarters. Fresh-made sausages, gourmet burgers, chicken wings, dips, beer, wine, and a state liquor store. They have it all at LearsPrimeMarket.com.
This fall, escape to the mountains for the ultimate gaming getaway and the perfect chance to win big at the casino at Nemacolin. This season, experience explosive jackpot prizes like black and gold football tickets, free play, and a brand new Ford F-350 Tremor featuring the newest slots, thrilling table games, and a stunning high roller lounge. Your next big jackpot is waiting for you at the casino at Nemacolin. Visit CasinoNemacolin.com for more information. Must be 21 and over with ID to enter the casino. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
The Bush Guide, cold and smooth survival skills. For a successful stint in the great outdoors, pack accordingly. Place heavy essentials near your spine for stability in rough terrain, with light items near the bottom. Now, you may be wondering, where does the Bush Light go? In your stomach. Bush. Head for the mountains.
Enjoy responsibly. Copyright 2024, Anheuser-Busch. Busch Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Live from the 700 WLW studios. Driven by Mike Castrucci Ford in Milford and Alexandria. Check out the Tri-State's largest inventory of brand new Ford Broncos, Super Duty, and Ford Mustang at MikeCastrucciFord.com. That's Mike Castrucci Ford.
You're listening to 700 WLW. Also available on 94.5 FM W233BG Cincinnati.
News, traffic, and weather. News Radio 700 WLW, Cincinnati.
Ongoing threats after Milton. With the 11 o'clock report, I'm Sean Gallagher. Breaking now. Hurricane Milton being blamed for more than a dozen deaths so far in Florida, with 6 caused by tornadoes that were caused by the storm. Officials still assessing the damage, with insured losses estimated in the billions. That Category 3 hurricane causing widespread flooding and uprooting trees that left many roads impassable across central Florida. Ashley Cabrera rode out the storm, but rising floodwaters have forced her and her family to evacuate. Her 2 sons were home during the hurricane. The older one attends the University of South Florida and brought home some college classmates to ride out the storm, as they're now all heading to a shelter until things get better.
I have never seen where we've had 2 back-to-back hurricanes that have caused the kids to not be in school, to evacuate back-to-back. And I've never seen the kids in all of these years be off of school for an entire week.
And officials have warned of unseen hazards in those floodwaters, like downed power lines and alligators. Now the latest traffic and weather together right now, taking a look at the major interstates and highways. No new accidents.
Now the latest forecast from the Advanced Dentistry Weather Center. Advanced Dentistry, the judgment-free dental experience you've been looking for. NoFearDentist.com.
We'll see some high clouds filter out the sunshine this afternoon as high temperatures top out around 79 degrees. We'll turn mostly clear tonight with lows falling to the lower 60s. And tomorrow the breeze kicks up, but temperatures still stay warm. We'll top out in the upper 70s with winds out of the west around 15 miles per hour, gusting up to 30 miles per hour at times. From your severe weather station, I'm 9 First Warning meteorologist Erica Calora, News Radio 700 WLW.
Radar at this time is showing a sunny sky, 66 degrees. News a service of Fiesel Roofing. The Bengals are at the Giants on Sunday Night Football. Forecast in East Rutherford, a mostly cloudy sky with showers and possible storms during the game. The low down to 54. The game day forecast brought to us by Arlene House Plumbing, Heating, Air Conditioning, and Electric. Northbound I-75 lanes between the Norwood Lateral and Town Street exits this weekend are closed due to ongoing road work.
All lanes of I-75 northbound going to be shut down as the Ohio Department of Transportation gets to work on fixing a dip in the highway. You will be able to exit onto the eastbound side of the Norwood Lateral, but you will not be able to get off at Paddock and then work your way back around to 75. This is the second and possibly final weekend of work to make these repairs.
We'll be able to update everybody come Monday morning. If they need a third weekend to complete the work, that would be probably the last weekend of the month. So it won't be next weekend. It would probably be the weekend after, so in 2 weeks.
Kathleen Fuller with ODOT. I'm Ricky Uccino, News Radio 700 WLW.
Cincinnati City Council has a new member as attorney Evan Nolan, who once worked in the city's law department, was named by Councilmember Mika Owens Friday to fill Reggie Harris's seat for the remainder of his term. Recently, Harris announced his resignation as he takes on a role in the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. College football, UC coming off their bye week are at UCF this afternoon. Coverage starts here on the big one at 2:30, a 3:30 kickoff. Kentucky, meanwhile, will host Vanderbilt tonight at 7:45 on ESPN 1530. And there are a lot of big, important games today in college football. Number 2, Ohio State, and one of them is there at third-ranked Oregon tonight, 7:30 kickoff. Top-ranked Texas and number 18 Oklahoma meet at the Cotton Bowl for their annual Red River Showdown. Number 4 Penn State out west to face USC. Both games kick off at 3:30. Then tonight at 7:30, it's number 9 Ole Miss at 13th-ranked LSU. MLB postseason action. Dodgers into the National League Championship Series after they defeated the Padres 2-0 Friday night in Game 5 of the ALDS. They'll now take on the Mets. That series starting in Los Angeles Sunday. Meanwhile, the American League Division Series Game 5 between the Guardians and the Tigers set to take place in Cleveland this afternoon at 1:08. The winner moves on to face the Yankees in the AL Championship Series. Our next update is at 11:30. I'm Sean Gallagher, News Radio 700 WLW.
This report is sponsored by AutoZone. Get in the zone. Starting stronger starts at AutoZone, where they've got battery solutions in the form of free battery testing, free battery charging, and replacement batteries that fit your needs. That's what makes them America's #1 battery destination. Get in the zone. AutoZone.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-9924. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-575-9924. That's 800-575-9924. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
Rocky here for Vance Outdoors. Vance has all your needs covered, from shooting sports to hunting and fishing, the lowest prices, and the largest selection of firearms and outdoor necessities in the Midwest. Visit Springdale or in Lebanon. Get the very best gear at vanceoutdoors.com.
In the criminal justice system, prosecutors bring the charges, and judges make sure justice is done. Prosecutors have to be tough, and judges have to be fair. And in the Ohio criminal justice system, Megan Shanahan has been both a prosecutor and a judge. Sending hundreds of dangerous criminals to prison, no prosecutor was tougher than Megan Shanahan.
A child rapist was sent to prison today. Before she won the case, prosecutor Megan